Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Shahista?
Walaikum salam. Very well, Jazakallah. And you?
All good, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Shahista, tell us, where did your life's journey begin? Your moments that made you the Shahista Thokan that you are today?
Well, I think it stems from I've always been a small town girl. So I was born in Pietermaritzburg and with a lot of ambition to grow and to, pursue my dreams, which was backed by a very supportive family. Mm. And thereafter, I got married at quite a young age. At the age of 20, when I moved to Johannesburg, that's when, I started working and started pursuing my career, actually. And not so soon after, I became a mum of 4 boys before the age of 30. So that happened. And I think you tend to grow with the different phases of your life and become who you are through all your experiences. Mm-hmm. And that's where I am today at the age of 42.
And what inspired you to become a transformational coach?
So my journey was very specific when I was younger. I think I was, as I said, I knew what I wanted. Very A-type personality. Wanted to be a CA all my life throughout school, chose those subjects, went to university with that in mind. And when I got married, I served my articles as well. Only soon to discover I was pregnant with my first child at 23. Mm. And life sort of changed, the perspective changed, and I pursued teaching when I was pregnant with my 4th son. Okay. And they were very close together. So I had quite a few years at home being a stay-at-home mum and just like studying continuously. And as an educator, I lived in a very selfish bubble. So I was very focused on my, promotion, my own family, my husband, my kids, their needs. Without really understanding what was happening in the external environment. And then in 2016, at the age of 19, my brother passed away. He passed away for heart attack. It was a tragedy. He was the youngest. I was 15 years older than him. So to put that into a bit of perspective, he was 4 at my wedding. So it was almost like losing a child. Yeah. And I think I just took a step back. I took a step out of myself and out of that bubble, just out of that tragedy. And I realized that I, in myself, needed counseling. And when I went through grief therapy and healing and so on, I finally got the idea that we need to live with more purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when I started the selfless behavior. Okay. So I was always very selfish in my own pursuit of happiness. And then thereafter, when I looked at Rida and when he passed and the legacy that he left, which was we leave nothing behind except for our deeds and our actions. And in 2016, I pursued NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I did it initially just to see if I could coach and counsel children, because that was always my niche as an educator for almost 2 decades. And it transformed and became into more and more things. So currently where I am in my coaching, I do a lot of corporate trainings on communication skills, conflict resolution, because these are the topics that I think everyone, whether it's individual, child, female, male, we all struggle with. Yes. And that led then to me becoming a relationship coach where I do marriage counseling, youth development, and of course, women empowerment. And when I was in the women empowerment space, I loved doing dawah work with the revert community. So Wiser was born from that. It's Women in Social and Economic Reformation. I created the NPC with the idea of my legacy in mind and with what I want to leave behind, scoring brownie points here, but also in the hereafter. Yes. And Wiser has just grown and the charity has just grown. But alhamdulillah, the niche of this small organization is to serve that particular community of the reverts, of burial services, ghusl facilities, to make them independent communities. Currently, I'm actually teaching them how to do entrepreneurship so that they no longer on zakat lists, which is a big dream of mine, because it's everyone wants to be in a position of independence, and self-sufficiency. So that was a bit of that.
Oh, I love that. Alhamdulillah. I'm so sorry for your loss. May Allah make it easy for you all and grant your brother Jannah, inshallah. What was it like, in the grieving? How did you overcome it? And what would you say was the impact it had on you with your personal relationships?
So I think at the point when it happened, there was a lot of anger that stemmed from me. So if you know my personality, I'm very outspoken. I'm very opinionated. I'm very strong and brave. Often, to a point where I converse a lot about my feelings and emotions. So when that hit and the anger hit, I sort of had to internalize a lot of it because I was the eldest child. I have one more sibling, my sister, and my parents had just lost. My dad specifically has lost his only heir to his company, which he built from the age of a teenager.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with people who were sad and broken, and I had to push that anger sort of into my subconscious. And that's where, when I went for counseling, it really helped me understand the different phases of grief, different phases of letting go. I think, and that was vital for me as a personality. Sorry about that. So thereafter, I started to actually speak to more and more people. And when I spoke to them, they spoke to me back. And that's when I started active listening. And that active listening was my healing process, because then I found myself in a position to assist people.
Yeah.
And that converted my entire grief and grieving into becoming useful.
Yes.
And that was the tool that shifted my focus away from sadness, because death and mortality is very real.
Yeah.
And acceptance is part and parcel of that. So my questioning and my anger was put aside, because now my purpose was starting to be lived through the counseling.
Okay, that's beautifully said. Being a mom of 4, where did you get the time to write 2 books?
Okay, so it was COVID, I have to say that. I was a very young mother, first child at 23, last child at 29. And I always felt like my entire youth was dedicated to bringing these boys up. And as you know, boys are super active, but I would have it no other way, because I'm a very easy person and I can't do high maintenance friendships, relationships, children. So the boys were very easy. And in my 30s, then I decided, okay, what now? Because I'm teaching, but I wanted more from life. And we moved around a lot. This is my 7th move in my marriage of 23 years. Like my husband constantly, he's an entrepreneur, so we're constantly moving. So I'm very resilient to that. And that's where my career, I did many different tertiary degrees because I kept wanting to test and challenge myself. And eventually, I think when COVID hit, it was a forced time to really recognize, okay, what can I do when I can't leave the home or I can't? And this entire online platform just took over. And for once, the boys were at home. So I taught them life skills because, again, following my brother's death, I wanted to make my boys as independent as possible. So they did things like cooking and baking and sewing. And I did things like writing and constantly journaling from a teenage girl. I think all teenage girls have the ability. I was invited to write and submit to a Facebook platform at that point. And when it got accepted, it was a breakthrough for me because I didn't know I had a creative personality. I was always very numerical and scientific. And I explored that area, and we published a book in COVID called Lockdown Behind the Mask. Subsequent to that, I had the bug now to be a publisher. And through social media, you can do anything and advertise it, and see how it goes. And I created a company with a friend of mine called Media Inc. And we asked the entire country of South Africa and all the potential writers, people with stories, local people, to submit these stories of their Indianness at that time. And it was at the time of the riots that was going on. And I felt like there was a lot of, disillusionment in our environment, but a lot of separation in terms of the different communities rescuing and assisting and their own people. Yes. So when we brought this book, it was like a melting pot of different Indians across South Africa and what made our stories different. And being from KZN and living in Gauteng for over a decade, I found us very different in my mentality, in the way I speak and think and integrate with others. I think I tend to gravitate more diversely with people, whereas my friends from Johannesburg almost like step away and are discouraged from that type of mixing. So when the book came out, we had 20 odd submissions, and alhamdulillah, we published 15 local authors.
Wow.
And the book name was called Taxi Through Mzansi, and it's currently at Exclusive Books. And it was just stories about how we were brought up, our mentality as Indians, our, forefathers' stories, but how we are still in the mix. And, just as a joke, as an educator in Gauteng, I used to always be teased about my accent.
Yes.
And I could never get the orange thing. So that was one of the things that were in the books. And it was really fun just to compile those stories.
I love how that all came together. I have to get that book. Einstein says that you should aim for value, becoming a person of value rather than success. I know that's one of your philosophies as well. How would you say, or what would you say is the best way to attain this?
So why that resonated with me is, remember, I was living the selfish life, and then I moved to the selfless life, which I call philanthropy. And I've always measured any goal or any achievement through a measure of success. Was I at the top? Was I rated? Did I have a good rank? Was it bringing me financial gratification? And then when I moved away to value, and when you can't put a tangible measurement on something that you do, like make someone happy or give someone hope, and in the revert community, give them knowledge that they pass on. I think these are the things that really made that stick with me in my purpose. And now whenever, I do something, I did a career workshop this weekend, and one of the parents, found it a bit expensive. I would never shy away from saying I'll do it pro bono, because again, I'm no longer measuring my success in that tangible moment. I'm measuring it to the value I can place in this child's life who could potentially one day pass the deed of charity on. So, yeah.
That's a beautiful legacy to add to it.
Inshallah.
I mean, what's your biggest fear?
Fear, I think, is a lot attached to my children.
Yes.
Work for me is peace. Parenting is disruption and chaos. I deal with 4 very different personalities, very different parenting styles. I have to be a very different person. And I'm I'd like to think authentic, because there's no gray areas. So I speak my mind as a parent as well. I'm very imperfect in front of my boys. They understand and criticize everything. And that's how I raise them to a point now where one of my greatest fears is I've made them a little bit emotionally intelligent, but letting them go into the world, like Oasis is 19 and he's doing accounting sciences, but not having that controlled environment where you can still mentor them and see them enough to give them guidance. I think that's scary for me. And hoping that they come back to you as a parent for the assistance and guidance. I think, that's always at the back of my mind. Did you do it right? Did you do it right?
So what would your dreams and hopes be for them as they go into adulthood?
So definitely just for them to seek their own happiness. I think now the generations that I coach, it's attached to so many things. Happiness is attached to either material things, other people, other people's opinions. And that was never how we were raised in my environment. So giving my kids that type of confidence to stand aside as a leader, not a follower in a group, that's vital. And I struggle with my second child with that, because he's Mr. Popular and such a follower mentality. And I see that is something that could potentially shape his decisions. And I don't want that for them. I want them to make their own decisions in life. So my dreams and hopes are very much attached to their level of, have I built them enough to understand their worth of their opinion and their own decision making for their own futures? That's important.
And in all your workshops, I know you speak about being your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
Are you your own cheerleader?
So that's come from a lot of heartache. I don't know about you, Hawa, but I've never been betrayed by a male,
Okay,
always a female. So whether it was in school or university, and now even as an adult female, I find that women speak a lot about empowerment and support, but their actions speak otherwise. And to tell you quite honestly, I sit on 3 boards where I'm the only female. Men have always been my allies. So when I say be my own cheerleader, I had to pick myself up after, whatever I've been through with another person, another female, another friendship, a colleague, or whatever it was that brought me down. And I had to root for myself and always try and promote myself, whether it was in my career, in my studies, in my friendship circles with Wiser. We deal with a lot of volunteers. So you have to constantly back your own instincts. And I think that's why being your own cheerleader is something when I do the girl-to-girl coaching, because of the bullying and the hate that's out there, between our girls, it's so prevalent. And that's something that actually made sense to tell them that if they back themselves, they won't wait for that validation. Yes. They won't expect the support or the sisterhood that everyone talks about or the empowerment from someone else, because it's self-empowering. Yes. And always, I'm never the feminist, because I love the fact that I've always been given the baton by a man. I've always been given the opportunity by someone that was in that opposite sex. It was never a threat. It was never competitive, and it was never coming from insecurity. It was always on merit, very respectful. And I think that for me, having that integrity in those relationships were very important.
Yeah, I think it has to be complementary rather than competition.
100%.
Do you believe in true love?
I believe that you can love more than one person. I believe love can be in various forms and shapes. I was teaching the love languages the other day when I did vision boards with a corporate group of females for Women's Month. And you realize as you get older, the romanticized version of love that we often are exposed to as young girls, it has its place. We should always seek it, because it does give us, as I said, that hope and that, desire to be. But I think when you discover the other forms of love that people give, and the one thing I'll say in friendships, my true form of love is time. I'm not that person that will meet someone after a few years and pick up. No. Being a friend in my life is being there all the time and knowing my phases and my growths. And I align with people and women that are with me in my journey, because we soon outgrow people, or you know what I'm saying? So for me, I love different things in different ways, different people in different ways. And I believe everything can stem from love. It's very important to me that even a supportive structure, the way you seek the love is the way you're going to receive it. So it's always best verbalized what you want from any situation or relationship.
So being married for 23 years, you said?
Yeah.
And being a relationship coach, what's your secrets?
Hard work. Every single day for 23 years, I never took it for granted that we knew each other in our teenage years, that we got married and we built this life. It's never taken for granted. I'm always insecure about that fact that we need to reassure each other that we have each other's backs, that we're supportive, that, I'm very outspoken, and Naeem's very introverted, and he's the calm and I'm the chaos type of thing in the relationship. So it's always that opposite. And it's, you'd love to attach the idea that opposites attract, but it's actually, there's a lot of conflict if you allow your personalities to take over. So I think the key ingredients for us was compromise, a lot of it, because we're so different. And then it was constantly staying true to our values, to say that, we did this together, we built this together, and we're both never going to have everything the other person wants. And there'll always be more beautiful, more intelligent humans out there that will attract us to that. But what makes us stay is so important. So I think having very open communication, and I'm not a person that sleeps well if a friend or if my spouse or my kids annoy me. I have to get it out of my body into the world, so that I'm not sitting with it. So I don't allow anything to take up the peace in my mind. And I think Naeem learning to accept that I am that way has been a journey because he's not that way.
Okay.
So I think, it's just a lot of fun navigating the challenges, but understanding the end goal. Because if you're going to concentrate on the obstacles, you're constantly going to give it negative energy.
Yeah.
So you're going to say, whatever we're going through, there's going to be a positive outcome. And then as a relationship coach, it's the same thing. If we see a toxic environment, I'm not going to necessarily tell them to be patient and compromise. Sometimes it's beyond that.
Yes.
So recognizing that two people can drift apart or move apart and are unhealthy for their environment, for their children, is so important. So as a mediator, you often have to weigh the pros and cons. Until now, in my own marriage, I mean, we're together I've lived more with my husband than I did with my parents. So you question, have we grown apart, or have we grown together, or are we even headed in the same future?
Yeah.
That's very important.
So communication.
Yeah.
Give us some of your transformational words of wisdom to close today.
I live solely by something that I read many years ago. And it said, when you are headed in a direction and it's easy and it's simple, then Allah has guided you to it. But when you want to go into a direction that is closed for you and that does not easily become yours, it's Allah's protection. And if I started to believe that, the more and more I started to believe that, the more I realized that whatever was meant for me would never miss me. And all these little quotes from the Quran and Quranic ayats and that make sense.
Yeah.
Because what will be will be. And I think any amount of planning of ours or control on our side won't make it be any sooner, any faster, or really happen. You have to submit. So what I tell the kids during youth workshops, especially with regards to their schooling lives, is work hard, but pray harder, because the effort is only so much that you can do. And the faith is the rest of the journey. So success is 90% your attitude and 10% your hard work, I think.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shahista, for being here with me today. I loved talking to you. I love your energy as
thanks
well.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Jazakallah Hawa, and I wish you all the best on this journey. I think it's so wonderful that you're collaborating with other women, and I think that in itself is amazing, because that is a form of empowerment, giving others a voice on your platform. I mean, there's no other liberation that you can do for another sister or female. So I'm really glad to be here, and I hope one day you'll attend my Wiser workshops.
I will, definitely. Looking forward to it.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.